Welcome, everyone. We are going to give 1 more minute for people to join, and then we are going to start with our today's webinar. In the meantime, if you don't mind introducing yourself in the chat. And as an icebreaker activity, we are asking you guys if you can put what it was your favorite childhood summer memory. And by the way, I'm Paula Adams. I am with the Hawaii After School Alliance. So introduce yourself. Tell us which organization are you part of, if you are part of any organization, and your favorite summer memory. And we have a Scott, man, from all the way from Texas. Welcome, Scott. I was going to say New Mexico, but then I correct myself.
It's good to be here. Good to see you, Paula. Hi, Jen.
Sorry, some of the states in the middle confuse me.
Me too.
Well, nice to see you, everybody. Nice to see so many familiar faces and some new faces. Thank you for joining us today. As you can see, we are going to have a webinar about summer programs and how to build a robust summer programs, because that's what our kids need and that's what our kids deserve. It's a very robust and important summer program. So saying that, I'm going to talk about the agenda. Next slide, please. So we are going to have some announcements about what we do. I wanted also to share that the Hawaii After School Alliance, a lot of people, all of you know who we are, but essentially the Hawaii After School Alliance support 3 areas in our kids, students, and family lives. We support after school, we support summer learning, and also we support full services community school. And the way we do it is also in 3 areas. We do in policies, making sure that the policies are in the right place to support our kids and families. We do it through sustainability. We work with different levels of funding, so there is not enough money for after school, summer programs, and community schools to support our kids and families. And also we work on quality, because we want the programs to provide the highest quality programming possible for summer, after school, and community schools. So we work with all of you to bring resources, professional development opportunities, and any other tools that you might need to support your kids and families. So saying that, we are going to share the announcements. We are going to talk about school community partnerships with Herb Lee, who is the director of the Pacific American Foundation. We are going to work with Kris from BellXcel and how to integrate academics into summer programs. And then with Kei Fukuda from Pal Places about ʻāina-based learning. Then we are going to go through breakout groups. And then we are going to come back to talk together about the learning, about how the sharing that you had in the breakout sessions. And then we are going to close the webinar. Any questions? Okay, saying that, I'm going to pass the mic to Mandy.
Thanks, Paula. Hi, everyone. So for starters, we just launched our summer programs database for the 2022 summer programs on Google Maps, and that will be an easy resource for families to access summer programs and find them and sign up for them. And then we're still collecting programs for this database. So I will drop both links down in the chat so that you can submit programs if you have any. And then Next slide, please. Thank you. And then we have, there will be the National Summer Learning Association's free and virtual summer planning boot camp that will be next week on March 30th to the 31st. And it'll offer tools and best practices to accelerate learning, build critical partnerships, and plan successful summer programs. So I'll also drop the link to register for that. Oh, sorry, I just saw Angela Young's question. We're just accepting programs on a rolling basis. So whenever you have a program that's ready to be submitted. And then the next slide, thank you. And then for the last announcement, we have the save the date for our annual Ahalokahi conference that will be in person this year at the University of Hawaii at Manoa on August 26th to the 27th. And then we'll be releasing more information about it soon. So just follow our newsletters and social media to keep up to date. And I will drop that link in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, please, if you are not receiving our newsletters, please start, signing to receive our newsletter, because we share a lot of information about funding and resources and things like that. Okay, now I'm going to pass the mic to Herb Lee from the Pacific American Foundation. And thank you, Herb, for being here with us.
Thank you, Paula. Again, this is Herb Lee, and thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about community partnerships. And what I want to share, I want to start with the idea of Aloha Mai, Aloha Aku, that, everything that I'm going to be talking about is about relationships and about the reciprocal nature of, you give aloha and you receive aloha. And can we go to the next slide? Okay, so let's start off with the obvious question. What I'm going to share with you guys this morning is probably nothing new to you, but hopefully it is a validation of some things that you guys already know how to do, or a focus on some of the important elements that go into strengthening community partnerships, and how, from a contextual standpoint, what that means in terms of how we combine opportunities for the learning journey for our kids in the context of community. So partnerships can serve to strengthen, support, and even transform. Definitely it has transformed me, and resulting in improved program quality, efficient use of resources, which is a big thing for me, because we know that there's always not going to be enough money out there. But it's not just about the money, it's about being able to develop relationships with partners that have access to other types of resources that could enhance the learning journey. And then hopefully, be able to align that with some of the goals of our different programs. Next slide. So this one, I wanted to share with you guys this graphic, which was the result of about 250 Native Hawaiian teachers in 2006 and 2007 that was assembled by the superintendent of education at the time, Pat Hamamoto. And she asked the question, what are the best practices in Native Hawaiian education? And at the end of that 2.5 years, we came up with this graphic. And the reason I want to show this is because for us to understand that as we build these community partnerships, it really is about, again, trying to engage this idea that we want to combine content and context, or in Hawaiian, a'o and honua, are inextricably intertwined. So in the learning journey with the haumana at the bottom of the triangle, or the student, it is sort of, they're all intertwined together. And to the extent that we can cause these really robust type of relationships to happen within our community, within the families, and combining all of this content knowledge, academic or otherwise, then we are providing these wonderful opportunities to have students be inspired learner, to be able to live what they are learning, that's the relevant aspect, and then hopefully be able to teach. So we look at the apex of the triangle, to be able to be the teacher. And this is nothing to do with age. This has everything to do with learning, application, and being able to share that knowledge with other people and hopefully contribute back to the community. Next slide. So I want to also ground us from a cultural standpoint. These are two Olelo no Ea wise sayings from Etimeri Kavena Pukui that I'm sure you have heard many times before. But I wanted to put this there because these two Olelo no Ea are what really resonated for me once I got into this whole realm of culture-based education, or what we call place-based education, project-based education now, but with a cultural foundation. And it's resonated with me all of these years and continues to resonate with me as I continue to try to build, community partnerships and relationships with people. So the first one, O'ohipau ka'ike i ka halau ho'okahi, all knowledge not learned in one school. This is not just about understanding on the surface that, yeah, everybody has different mana'o, everybody has different knowledge, but it is also about an attitude in relationship building that you have to be or you have to be humble in terms of what you do know and that you don't know everything. And to the reason why we form these partnerships is to provide, a deeper opportunity for learning, deeper relationships, and most importantly, different experiences that go beyond our own experience. And so we need to have a humble heart when we approach these kinds of opportunities to partner with people, that people will have different experiences from us. And that's good. That's a good thing. The other one is, makahana ka'ike. And what I like to say about this one is that, sometimes we spend too much time just trying to plan all of these things out instead of sometimes just jumping in and doing it. And sometimes, especially if we don't know if these community partnerships are going to work or not, sometimes it's good to just jump in and do it, learn from it. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it doesn't, if the relationship is not that good, then okay, both sides can just move on. But I think the point here is that, if you don't actually jump in, you're never going to know. So it is also about risk taking. So community partnerships, building community partnerships, there's a certain measure of risk involved as well. But I think the rewards far outweigh risk. And sometimes we just got to jump in. Next slide. So this is another graphic that I wanted to show you just to kind of show you what the possibilities are. And this came from Marlene Zoig, that used to be the director of the after school, 21st century after school program and the community engagement branch. And this goes back way back to the mid 2010, 2011, 2013. And we were a part of the redesign of a local high school on the windward side, actually Castle High School. And we went through this process over a year, had over 500 meetings. And the question was, what do we redesign the school to? So as a consequence of No Child Left Behind, the school was slated to be redesigned. So our CAS, Leah Albert at the time, asked the question, what do we redesign to? And the answer was, give the school back to the community. And so as a result of all of these conversations, this is a graphic that kind of shows, what people wanted to see in the school and how potential topic areas for learning, partnerships, because obviously the school, itself cannot do all of this. So this was just an example of the interconnectedness of, health, academics, the character of the community, the culture of the community, and how, what the possibilities are when you have a really robust, we call it sort of now community schools, bringing in the resources of the community into, the mainstream academic, K-12 school, and even, I would say P20 now in the college experience. All of these things are still very much applicable in terms of the kind of partnerships that we can build. Next slide. So now we get into the specific steps. And again, this is probably not new to you, but just kind of reinforcing that. I'm going to really focus on this idea of pilina, or relationship building. And, so you guys can kind of read that. To me, one of the most important things is constant communication, and listening, not just hearing, but listening. And, this idea of resisting inappropriate social pressure. So some of the examples that I thought, when I embarked on this journey, over 20 years ago, the idea of culture-based curriculum was something that people thought was dumbing down curriculum. And of course, we set our goal, in the context of the fish pond, and how we develop, curriculum for the fish pond in all of the academic areas, to prove that, that thought process wrong, that, culture was a critical part in the learning process. And it, at that time, I would say, there was social pressure that, hey, you do anything culture related, that it is really dumbing down. And, this is on the cusp of beginning, No Child Left Behind in the early 2000s, where we went to a standards-based kind of learning. And so, there's many other things. People think that after school programs are just babysitting programs, but they're not. They are a vibrant part of the regular school day that enhances the learning journey for the students, so that they don't know the difference between the regular school day and the after school time. And learning is 24/7. So just some ideas like that. And that, these relationship skills are really critical in the success of everything that we do 24/7. Next slide, please. So how do we demonstrate these relationship skills? And you may laugh at some of these, but I think they're really important and really basic. Be honest in your relationships. Respect others. Never misguide anyone. And again, communicating effectively, as I said. And then also know how to say no to people. Sometimes, it's hard for us to say no to people, but hopefully you can be in a relationship with your community partner, or individuals. As Chris Murray shared with us, relationships start with people, not organizations. And so, hopefully you get to that point in your relationship that you can, say no when it's appropriate to say no. Next slide. Step 2. So what makes a good relationship work? Again, I just want to reiterate, communicate openly and honestly. Good communication is a key part of any relationship. So, understanding that, organizations will have different missions, but part of their mission will coincide with yours. And so you need to understand and, and put yourself in the shoes of other people, and understand where they're coming from, and then look for the areas of commonality between your missions, between your organization, and then work on that, focus on that, and build that bridge that hopefully can last a long time. And be comfortable in how you express your needs and desires and fears, and trust that, it'll strengthen the bond between the both of you. I think that has worked for me, and that continues to work for me. And I really, really believe strongly that, relationship building is always a work in progress. And so every day is a different day. But the deeper you go, the deeper of an understanding that you have in terms of respective needs, and then always focusing on, the true target, and that is the children of Hawaii, and how we can bring the best opportunities for them to learn. That also will guide you in terms of those rough patches, in the relationship building process. Next slide. I think I'm almost done. So this is my last slide. What is the most important thing? I gotta say, hands down, trust one another completely. And that's, it's easier said than done. And it takes time. It's not gonna happen in one meeting. It's not gonna happen if you just meet once a year. It's not gonna happen, just by going through step one and step two, it's gonna take work, and you're gonna have to constantly build it. But once you have it, imagine if you have a relationship without trust, and how long would that kind of relationship last? So I believe that once you have trust, then you can begin to build and create success with partners, one small success at a time, which will grow into larger successes, a deeper sense of trust, a deeper relationship across the board with different partners, and hopefully something that will be long lasting, that can continue to give and continue to be successful for the benefit of our children, whether it be in a summer program or an all-year program or whatever that is. I really believe that especially now coming out of this pandemic, that we have kind of learned to pull together even more closely, because we need each other. And if we don't have that trust in going forward and understanding of why we're going forward and what we're doing to bring a closer relationship within our communities, then we got to take a step back and reassess where we're going with our what we're doing for our children, and reassess the relationships that we do have, and then move forward with confidence and intention, and be intentional in earning that trust and respect. You cannot buy it, you have to earn it, and it takes work. But once you get it, I think it's absolutely gold. So that ends my my talk for you guys, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Aloha.
Thank you, Herb. Thank you so much. Yeah, now we are going to pass the mic to Kris. Thank you, Kris.
Hi, aloha everyone. It's so great to be here. You are all some of my favorite people. Herb, I'm so glad that you ended with that idea of intentionality, because I think that is so core to the work that we are all being called to do right now. The last few years have been rough, and all you have to do is, open a social media account, turn on a newscast, or open a newspaper to hear about the rough times that our children and their families have had. And sometimes the inclination after you've just had this really terrible experience is to super correct, right? Like right after the holidays, we all go on a crash diet and we stop eating everything. And what happens is we maybe lose a few of those holiday pounds, but eventually we kind of stabilize ourselves, not where we want to be, but where we kind of end up when we run out of willpower. And so as you think about your summer programs this year, I really encourage you not to succumb to the urge to fix everything all at once, but to be really intentional about how you design your summer programs. Academic integration is one way that you can make a huge difference in the lives of your kids and their families. I'll have you flip to the next slide, please, Jen. I want to share with you a little bit of research. BellXcel is grounded in research. It's always where we start. If you integrate, and that's a really important word, integrate academic programs into your summer programming, research tells us that a lot of great things can happen, one of which is immediate. Children who are engaged in summer programs for 5 to 6 weeks can actually demonstrate 2 to 3 months of academic growth, because that academic integration is intentional, the learning time is focused, the staff are not trying to do 6,000 other things that happen during the school year. So you can see short-term impact right away. But the other things that research tell us, I think, is really important too. One is that even when the kiddos go back to school next year, they tend to perform better on standardized tests than their peers who were not in programs. They also tend to have better school attendance as compared to kiddos who didn't go to summer programs. We see when we look at longitudinal studies that young people who are involved in academically enriched summer programs actually have an increased interest and engagement in learning all year long. And that translates also into a faster rate of skill acquisition during the school year. Their rate of learning actually improves. And then some other things that are perhaps prior to 2020, we would have considered these intangibles, but they're super important. And that is, you know, an improved understanding of their own well-being and their social emotional skills that can lead to improved personal management, so that their school behavior referrals can be reduced. We see a ton of growth for kiddos with regard to that. I do have a research citation for all of this research, and I've put it in the resources documents that I think you all are going to get at the end of this time. I want to be really clear that one of the things that's really important is that I'm not talking about what we all might remember as summer school. This is not time sitting at a desk interacting with some homeworky kind of things or some workbooks, but really in integrated academic programs that fit into a broader, more robust, I loved your word, Paula, more robust summer program. All right, I'll have you click to the next slide. Couple of key things to consider as you're thinking about integrating academics into your summer program. One of the most important things to really think about, and it's sometimes hard for us to do, it gets back to what Herb was saying about knowing when to say no, was to be mindful about which of your young people you invite into the program. An academically engaged summer program may not be right for everybody. We really encourage partners to focus on those kids who are kind of on the bubble, not the urgent intervention kiddos who are needing intense remediation, and not those kiddos who are looking for an acceleration program. By integrating academics, you can help to level the playing field for kids by filling in the valleys and the gaps. Thinking about your curriculum, remember that you're not trying to teach them fourth grade before they get there. You're really trying to get them ready to learn fourth grade. So ensuring that those third grade skills, for example, are really solid, the kids have confidence in their abilities to understand those concepts so that when they move into the next school year, they feel confident in themselves. We also really encourage folks to look at data. We encourage partners to use some sort of quantitative measure at the beginning of your program to understand what children need to learn. Just because you're 7 doesn't mean that you need to know the difference between plural and singular verbs or plural and singular nouns. It might be that your learning gaps are very different. So we encourage partners to do some sort of assessment so you can identify where to focus your instructional energy. And then we also really want to make sure that you are mindful about your curriculum. Summertime is not just more school. Utilizing the same school curriculum will result in, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and hoping for different results. You have to think about summer a little bit differently if you want to get results from it. Your curriculum should be really high interest content. If that's for middle schoolers, heavy on the social justice. If it's for second graders, make sure it's all about family. It should also be easy to implement. So your staff should not have to go home and prepare for hours and hours and hours. If you implement that kind of program, you will only have staff for 1 year because they won't come back. It's their summer experience too. So it should be pretty turnkey. And then we also encourage you to think about the qualities of the staff that you're going to engage. If you're going to use credentialed teachers, then you can use a curriculum that requires that they integrate from various sources and leans on their academic and pedagogical expertise and experience. If you're going to utilize youth development staff, then you probably don't want to lean on a curriculum that requires a lot of integration. You want something slightly more scripted, but then you can lean on the social emotional skill building and the relationship building that your youth development staff might have. The same curriculum doesn't necessarily work as well in both of those instructors' hands. It's really important that you train your staff mindfully. Let's face it, many of your staff haven't been with kids for a couple of years. You may have lost some of your really experienced staff. So I would encourage you to assume nothing and make sure that they understand not just what academic curriculum you're going to use and how to use it, but how it fits in to everything else that you're going to do. And then lastly, increasingly, we are being asked to show data that shows the impact of this work. So I would encourage you to measure your impact, measure your impact quantitatively with an academic measure. We at BellXcel, we rely heavily on Star Renaissance because it is web-based, it's computer adaptive, and it's gives very discrete bits of information. But you also want to test and assess how your social emotional learning skills have grown. You can do that through subjective reports from families and guardians, from staff members. And then you also, don't leave out satisfaction, because as you put your energy into designing a program, you want to make sure that it's a program that will stand up next year too. And that means providing a program that is really satisfying to the kids and family who take advantage of it. What is great about the way that Paula and her team designed this webinar today is that the three things that we're all talking about, when they're working together, can lead to a program that just can't fail. So with that, I'm going to hand off the descriptions to Kei Fukuda, who's going to talk to you a little bit about ʻāina-based learning.
Thank you, Kris. Aloha, everybody. I'm Kei Fukuda with PALS and Places. So it's Places, place-based learning and community engagement in school. And under that is our after-school program, PALS. We've been doing summer programming probably for the last 10 years, both elementary school and high school. I know the work of both Herb and Kris, and privileged to be talking with the two of you. I mean, I think Herb, probably your relationship building and your reputation for the kinds of relationships that you have established is very, very well known. And Kris, I've spent time observing some of your programs in San Francisco and really have a great deal of respect for your work. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we have found, some of the outcomes for ʻāina-based learning. And one is the social emotional learning aspect of it. And also, I mean, Herb, you touched on this, healing. I mean, getting kids out to the ʻāina is very healing for many of them. And when I say healing, I mean both spiritual and emotional healing. It also is, it's amazing the opportunities they have for identity development. And that identity development may be cultural, it may be community identity, it may be identity as a learner, but it's really valuable time. Kids get to fall in love. I mean, they get to fall in love with the ʻāina, they get to fall in love with the best of what's in their community. And they get to learn about what's the best of what's in their community. They get to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. And that's one thing, it's almost consistently the kids, that's important to them to understand that they are part of something bigger than themselves. And ʻāina-based, depending upon how you structure it, there's just really some deep and wonderful opportunities for intergenerational learning. And I've come to really appreciate the importance of those opportunities, because I think, more and more we're sort of separated out into whatever group, we belong to. ʻāina-based opportunities also provide gratification, and we talk a lot about kids expecting instant gratification, but when they're working out on the land, when they're working with the ʻāina, they come to appreciate sort of the unfolding of gratification and the starting of something and the time that it takes. So it's oftentimes very different from what they experience in the classroom as it relates to gratification. I'm going to talk right now just about our latest summer programming that we do, which is Kaiulu. And it goes directly to what Herb was talking about, relationships. So Pua Kaiulu, our work is out on the Waianae coast. Pua Kaiulu is a 5-week program we do for high schoolers on the Waianae coast. And it's a collaborative effort. We've been working with communities and schools in Waianae for almost 15 years now. And our relationships with community organizations truly, it has transformed me as an individual. And I say that holds for every one of our staff members. And it has really helped improve the quality of the organization. And it's based upon the relationship and those trusts that the community knows who their kids are. They know what their kids need, and they know what works and doesn't work as far as the DOE goes. So this Pua Kaiulu is a 5-week program, and it's a collaboration with a number of community organizations. One of our primary is Ka'ala Learning Center, which is about 97 acres of ancient lo'i, and then the curriculum coordinator and CT coordinator at Waianae High School. And it's because we've had these long-standing relationships. So this is 5 weeks, 5 days a week. And what we're doing on this one is connecting the kids to their community to understand the issues in their community. And with, so this past summer, we talked about issues around water, issues around fire mitigation. The Waianae coast is the hottest fire spot of all the islands. Issues around land use policy, and issues around ancestral practices. Why are ancestral practices significant? Throughout the 5 weeks, so we had 20 students, high school and early college, and we had worked with 4 of the kumu. And what was so wonderful about it, and I think the kumu also really appreciated it, is that they weren't expected to come in as the subject matter experts. We brought in researchers, cultural practitioners, community advocates. We brought in multiple perspectives to all of these different issues. And for instance, fire mitigation, it's such a big issue in Waianae. And we brought in university researchers to talk about the issues around the wildfires in Waianae. One of the ranchers up there who has to deal with it on a yearly basis, and what his efforts are now, which is, sheep herding. But I don't even know how to explain how wonderful it was for these kids to understand the brilliance that exists in their community, and then to start talking about the challenges, but the brilliance that they have to draw upon to address the challenges. And, the adults in their community really care about them. And it was really just extremely loving how many people were willing to come work with the kids over the 5-week period. So everything over the 5-week period, everything that the kids were learning, it was all first grounded in ancestral knowledge, and then what it could look at, what were ancestral practices, and then brought to what's the conditions today, and then for the kids to think about what is their kuleana to their community to shift what the future condition is going to be. Every Monday was Mo'olelo Monday, and every Friday was a full circle Friday. I think reflection was a really important piece in the summer program. And I'll say that in the end, there were a group of kids from Waianae High School that were so taken by the experience because they were able to go up Mauka into places that they don't usually go, but because of these connections to the community, including, you know, Department of Forestry and Wildlife, including state agencies that you develop relationships with, these kids were able to really gain an appreciation for the vast and deep beauty and wealth that exists in their community. So once the school year started, some of the Waianae High School kids, they asked to be able to do a presentation to their school admin. So Waianae High School principal and vice principals, the kids went to them, they presented, they told them about their summer experience and told them, requested of admin that that their regular school day experience, that their summer experience their regular school day should include the same kind of experiences they had in the summer. And in the feedback that we got, the reflections, a deeper commitment to what it means for their kuleana to their community in the future. So I think there is just so much power in ʻāina-based summer learning. So I think my time is up.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you so much. Wouldn't you listen to the three of them forever? I feel like we can be listening to Kay and Herb and Kris for hours and hours and hours. So thank you so much, guys, for sharing your awesome wisdom with us today. And now we are going to move to the breakout sessions. The idea of the breakout session is that you guys have a time to talk to each other about summer, about what you are thinking of summer, your plans for summer, share ideas, share challenges. So the discussion questions, Jen is going to put them in the chat, but they are regarding these three elements that Kay, Kris, and Herb talk about. Partnerships, academic, ʻāina-based learning. What are you planning to do in your summer program? The next question is, what will it look like to combine all three of these elements in your summer programs? How do they complement and work together? And the third one is, what challenges do you face to incorporate these three elements? So we are going to have 12 minutes of discussion, and in each group, please choose someone who can report back to the large group. So you can share with the large group what your group talk about. Okay, I'm going to let you go to the breakout rooms, and we'll see you in 12 minutes. Yeah. Okay, are we all back? Yeah. Well, how did it go, guys? How was the breakout session go? Did you have enough time to, I know it's never enough time, but I hope you had enough time to chat with each other. So the idea right now is if each group, I hope you choose someone, your spokesperson, to share a little bit about what happened in your group. Who would like to go first? Okay, Epsi.
Good morning. Can you guys all hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fantastic. So I was in a group with Shayna and Jessica. Jessica does the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program out of Maui. They are going to start something in the summer, and so she's really excited to be here today to learn more. Shayna does the city and county parks planning for the whole, what is it, ages 5 to 17, all that programming, which I love the district park programming because my kids actually benefited for that, and myself also. And then for me, for Kaiulu Intermediate School, we're going to run a 5-week session bridge transition for 6th graders into 7th graders into our school. Our math, ELA, science, craft, and gardening, which is what I do, will participate, and then hopefully be able to get kids integrated with sense of being and try and build that before they enter our school in the fall. We'll do lots of field trip and hands-on work. And I'm hoping to bring them to Herb's place over the summer.
Awesome. Who would like to go next?
Ooh, I will. Okay.
Go, Angela.
I'm like sharing for our group, although they didn't vote for me. I'm just nominating myself. Okay, so I was in a group with Catherine, Crystal, and Leona. And so we had reviewed some things about their programs. For example, Mountain View. So for Mountain View, they were going to do like ukulele classes and then PE classes, gardening classes, and they wanted to reach out to community partners. And so kind of like something they could consider is reaching out to like musicians for their ukulele classes to have performances. That way, you know, the students will feel like it's a very interactive class, and also like they will get professional advice, and also musicians who are looking for kids for their class will be very invested in kind of mentoring the ukulele class. Yeah, so, and then Crystal mentioned a Boys and Girls Club, a 6-week summer program, and they do a lot of like fun things, and they work with Kamehameha for the Kapalina, I don't know how to pronounce that, but they teach kids like hands-on activities about Hawaiian culture, weaving. So something that was advised was like maybe, they wanted to learn how to like implement more academics to the fun part. So something that was suggested was to incorporate learning about native Hawaiian plant and animal species, because if they're doing like haku classes, creating leis, then it kind of like ties into the whole thing about like wildlife, nature, and Hawaiian culture.
Okay, Angela, sorry, I'm going to cut you off so we can because it's already time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, can we have another group share out? Oh, Jen, you want me to go directly to the next steps? It is time. Okay, guys, sorry about that. So the idea is, as you can see in the chat, in the presentation, we were wondering about, you know, the next steps, right? From the presentation, we have this next step: relationship building, community and trust, clarify your programs. So you can read it, and the idea is if you can share it in the chat, what action steps are you committed to taking after this webinar? So I can read some of them, you know, mostly to connect to ʻāina-based, connect with community partners. As you know, we are working hard for schools to be able to partner with community-based organizations, because we know a school cannot do it all by themselves, and they should be partnering with community-based organizations. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, next slide, please. I know an hour usually sounds like a long time, but usually it's not enough to cover everything that we would like to cover. But we are so thankful for you guys to come to our webinar today. Jen is going to put a short evaluation. You already did it in the chat. Please complete it before you go, or after you go. But also count on us. If you have any questions about summer programs, you always can contact us. And if we don't have the resources, we can move you in the right direction for people who might be able to help you. But please contact us and count on us if you need any help. And nice seeing you all. Okay, thank you for being here with us today.
Aloha.